Emma and Louise, welcome to the pod.
Hello.
Hi, excited to be here.
Thank you so much for joining me. I was just saying that it's been a little while since I've had two people on the pod. So looking forward to going through this with both of you, and also always enjoy talking to recruitment entrepreneurs who have got through this first year.
And made it.
You've just recently had your first year milestone in business.
We have.
So obviously massive congrats on that. And today we're going to really get into the detail really on what did we learn in this first year, what really worked, what were some of the lessons that we had to learn the hard way, what have been some of the challenges, and I'm sure we're going to discuss plenty of other things as well. So that's our goal. To give everyone some immediate context, let me know if I get any of this wrong.
Okay.
But both of you actually previously worked together
Yeah.
at a business called Salt.
Yeah.
Emma, obviously we met a while ago when you was at Salt. You've been
We
on the
did.
podcast, so you worked at Salt for like over a decade.
Yeah.
Louise, you didn't work at Salt for over a decade, but been in recruitment for a good amount of time, right? What was...
Yeah. Been in recruitment for about 7 years.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, worked with Emma for 3.
For free. Awesome. So both sort of met each other there.
Mm-hmm.
And then February last year was the launch, or no?
Yeah.
Of the business,
so
right?
second week of Feb.
Yeah.
13th of Feb, I
Okay,
think
cool.
it was.
Yeah.
It's literally, yeah, February was the milestone. So launch your own business. I don't want to butcher this. Esto, right?
Yeah,
Esto.
Esto.
Esto Search or just Esto?
Esto
Esto.
Search.
Esto Search.
We don't even know the name.
Yeah,
So-
Esto Search.
Okay, so launch that business. Your world, which we're going to get into, is like tech sales. Or
Go to market, yeah.
Go to market.
Go to
okay, cool.
market,
So yeah,
yeah.
there's different things that can go into that. So some of the let's give everyone the highlight reel. So first year, closing out the year on 506k billings
Yep.
between both of you, which is
Yeah.
absolutely awesome.
Thank you.
75% of placements were female,
75% were female, yeah.
which is a really cool
Yeah.
stat. Something also worth mentioning is like you definitely haven't been like local in terms of your business. Like you shared with me that you've done placements internationally from
Yeah.
from the get go.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that. Average deal size 23,300,
Yeah.
which I think is really solid, and it's all been perm.
All
Yeah.
perm.
Yeah. So there's some of the, sorry to sort of whittle down this first year, just a few bullet points,
Yeah.
but there's some of the key bits. So why don't we just start from like the beginning? I think I was telling you before we started this, there'll be a lot of people that listen to this show that maybe consider starting their own business, may never get there, may get there and then hate it. So I think whenever we can really dive into what are the actual realities of going from being an employee, having a real long amount of time being an employed recruiter, to then launch your own business, what are the actual realities of like what is actually really difficult, what isn't, it's really helpful for people. So why don't we just start with, I think what often people get caught up on, Emma, I'll direct this with you, I don't know how this sort of played out, but people can spend a lot of time on like the name. So just tell us a bit there in terms of the story there. When you was thinking about the name of the business, what was front of mind? Did you want something that did help you stand out? I don't know. Tell us a bit about the name process, because people do get caught up on
Yeah.
this.
And I think the name's really important as well, because there's so many recruitment companies, and I think it's one way to kind of differentiate yourself is to have a really strong brand. So for us, I would say like 70 to 80% of the calls we have, one of the first things people say to us is, oh my gosh, we love your brand. So I think it is really important to spend a lot of time like thinking about it. And we were just looking on the way here at our like WhatsApp chat, and we were trying to figure out when we actually said the word Esto for the first time. So I think it was around sort of September last year, wasn't it?
There were
And-
some crackers in there as well, wasn't there?
some random ones.
What did you nearly call it?
like we were Googling like
There was like
lioness.
Lioness.
Yeah, honestly,
No.
there was absolutely all sorts.
So yeah, we would, but I think my sister's a designer, so she kind of like said to us, look, Emma, stop thinking about recruitment and start thinking about you. How do you want to come across? How does your brand want to come across? This isn't about being a recruitment company. This is about you and, you know, your business. And for us, you know, working in recruitment for a long period of time, something that always kind of stuck with us is we did things how we wanted to do it. And I was really passionate about, when I was managing people, I'd always say, be authentic, be yourself. Don't kind of like do what everyone else is doing. If someone's really good on the phone, go on the phone. If you're better on email, go on email. Like find what you're comfortable doing and then excel in it. So being you and being authentic was something that stuck really strongly with both of us, and we really wanted it to come across in the name. So we just sort of Googled BU, you know,
There's a lot of stuff
there's a lot
being
of
thrown around in
BU.
Latin.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. It is very common to get to like Latin
Yeah,
words, isn't it?
love a bit of Latin. I think there was a bit of Hebrew in there
There was
as well.
another name as well, wasn't there? And then we looked and it was actually gone on Company's House.
I can't remember.
So was that your process out of interest? Because again, was you like, I like that name, let's look at Company's House. Do people have that? Is there companies called that already? So you did that,
So it was more, start off with what do we want the brand to represent? We want to talk about being authentic. We want to talk about being yourself. That was how we wanted to lead. And then it was kind of trying to find words that linked to
Relate to
that.
that.
And then Esto just popped up and we were like, Esto.
So what does it mean?
It means
You did tell me.
BU.
BU.
Yeah.
In Latin?
In Latin,
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it just stuck. It just felt really
It's very
right.
brandable, isn't it? It's just
Yeah,
like a couple
just
of
one
couple
word.
of letters.
Yeah.
We wanted something that was disassociated with recruitment.
Yeah.
We didn't want something that was like, oh, that's definitely recruitment. We
Yeah.
wanted something that resonated with the brands that we recruit for and something that could stand out to them tech businesses as well, not just something that was generic and kind of like recruity, I guess.
And also, I think so much of what we do in terms of the candidates and the clients that we place, you know, they're going to have multiple opportunities on the go. And I say to candidates, and always have done, where do you feel most comfortable? Where can you be yourself? And it's so true that I think that is sometimes you might have two identical offers and someone will take a job where they can genuinely be themselves and feel comfortable. So it just kind of all sort of linked together and just
I
made
do
sense.
think your sister gave you really good advice there.
Yeah.
Like, rather than, because I think what can first happen, or where people can find themselves, is like they're trying to just think of like that memorable, cool, brandable name. But actually, your sister was like, hang on a minute, take a step back and be like, what is it that you want to be known for?
Yeah.
These things, and then go from there. Because you can tell now, like with that being the name, you're just saying that it goes hand in hand with everything that you do.
Exactly.
And you can really talk about it passionately, and it's sort of, it is intertwined with like how we deal with candidates, how we pitch ourselves to clients. So I think that's a smart way to think about it. Like, if you're ever considering starting on your own, or you get too caught up in this, like, take a bit of a step back and be like, actually, like, this is an opportunity for us to just be ourselves. Like, we're starting this entrepreneurial journey. When else can you just try things and really be yourself?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the cool things. Like, no manager's gonna be like, nah, Emma, that name's silly. Like, don't do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I think
the
you know in
shackles
your
are
gut
off.
as well, like when it felt right.
Yeah, we just
I was
immediately...
thinking, I think to start with, I wanted to be called like elevate recruitment, like elevate your life, and it's just like it's too cheesy. It doesn't. It has to sit with you and be, you know, feel good with, you know, inside you.
For sure. What might be worth also mentioning, I should have said this in the intro, but both of you have taken the route of like self-funding this, right? Like, you haven't taken any external investment. And I've got here, both had a massive 5K. I mean, people launch things with less, with more, but you both had 5K in the pot.
Yeah. 5K
Louise,
and good dads.
Yeah, and Louise, you just got on a property ladder as well, so like, add that in the mix.
Exactly. It was a scary time. I was thinking, right, this is going to pay for 2 months. So technically we've got a buffer, maybe with a little loan from my dad. How can I pay my mortgage on month 3? But we got there in the end, luckily.
Exactly. So you were just saying before this, so it basically took you about, people always want to hear like how long did it take to get, because you always remember that first invoice getting paid. So basically that happened, within the first 3 months?
Yes. Yeah, so we think we'd done our first deal in March. We were looking on the train, weren't we, when we actually done it? So we actually got paid in March, which was a very exciting time. I think I was actually in the supermarket at the time, and you called me and you were like, look at the bank. And we were literally just like screaming.
It's
it
unreal
was exciting.
It was so good.
Everything's just so exciting. Like, everything feels like a first time in recruitment. It was like the first deal we'd ever done. Like, it was just amazing.
Yeah, we booked flights to Dubai and went on holiday next week.
Love it.
We thought we deserve a little bit of downtime, a bit of a break.
We've been working solidly for a whole month. We need to go on holiday.
Let's think a bit more about this beginning bit. On that, how long did you think you both gave yourselves? Did you speak about that? It was like, right, like with this amount of money, with this sort of little nest that we have, potential support if we needed it, we should be fine for 3 months, 4 months. I don't know. How do you think? I think that is important. People ask about that. What should be a good, healthy financial runway?
To be honest, you know, when I was sort of growing up and always thinking in the future, oh, one day I'll have my own recruitment company, in my head I thought I'm going to need at least 50 grand, because I'm going to need 6 months to live off and then a buffer. And the way that we did it, because we just kind of rolled with it, and it was actually quite a fast decision once we decided to do it. We didn't have that money. So we just had to make the best of what we had. And it was kind of like, we're doing this now. We're going to roll with it. We're going to have to make it work. We're going to have to get our heads down and do a deal. So it was kind of, because it happened so quickly, we put probably more pressure on ourselves. But I think that might be good in a way, because I think if we had 50K in the bank, who knows, we might not have
get a bit more lax,
had that fear inside of us, that kind of drove us to do those placements so quickly.
Because I remember as well speaking to a couple of people that had set up their own businesses, and they were like, my one piece of advice is that you need 6 months to cover yourself.
Yeah.
That's normally what people say.
Yeah. So we were like, okay, so we've got half that amount of time. We're going against everyone's advice and we're just going to go for it.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. It was like sink or swim, and we had to get some cash. We had to pay our mortgages. So
I think also what you need to think about as well is, if you're in a job doing recruitment right now, if you blank for 6 months, I mean, I'm not being funny, but you're probably going to get sacked, or or even probably blank for 3 months. The majority of people who think I'm good enough to take this step probably aren't going to blank for 3 months.
They should back themselves, shouldn't they?
You should back yourself, because if you were going to blank 6 months, I would say maybe not starting a recruitment company is the right thing for you to do.
I think about also like being honest with yourself. Like we were saying, weren't we, like being honest, are you a 360 recruiter?
Yeah.
Or if not, if you're partnering with someone that is on the flip side to that, you need to be able to both have your strengths. Like if you can't bring in business, the other person that you partner with needs to be able to.
Yeah.
But I think lucky for us, we both were quite confident that we could be full 360 recruiters and that we could bring in our jobs and fill them. So I think it is just about having like an honest conversation with yourself and be like, because ultimately if you're working at a company, it's your own desk anyway. You're technically running your own business within a bigger company, just the comfort of the base salary and the brand. Whereas if you can kind of establish the brand and find comfort in, you know, taking that step, ultimately you can do your job, you can do recruitment, so you can do it by yourself.
Yeah, like no one's gonna come and save you, are they? Like when you go on this, like you've got to be honest with yourself for sure.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that self-awareness,
Exactly.
be interested to see how far you go. Because like no one's, like I said, no one's gonna come and say, and you can't just kid yourself. Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
So and we're gonna touch on that, because I do think I'm really with you on one of the most important skills is like the sales side. Unless maybe you're launching a business who one of you is an absolute world-class salesperson, another person world-class at delivery. If it is just you, that is one of the most important skills that you got to really back yourself in on this, for sure.
Definitely.
Let's still talk about this beginning period. I think something that it builds on the brand piece, but something that people really spend a lot of time on, I think rightly so, is what's going to be our point of difference. Like, it's so competitive. You've already said that, Emma, and it's like, how are we going to be different? So maybe Louise, I'll come to you on this. Like, how do you think about that at the beginning? You might have continued to sort of figure that out over the first year, but I do think it's a fair thing to think about. What are our unique selling points? How are we actually going to be different? Because I do think when you really boil it down, if you're delivering a great recruitment service, that's going to look fairly similar for most people.
Yeah,
but what are the points of differences? It might be your brand and what you stand for and what you're doing, but where did you land with this?
I think from us, even from the get-go, I hadn't seen a business being founded by women. That was the main point of difference. I think ultimately being two females in a really male-dominated space and recruiting within that space, often working with male hiring managers, just having that piece to be able to push the diversity piece. I think, like Emma said, 75% of our placements were female, but that just happened by chance. And I think it's because females come to females. So that kind of naturally became a point of difference. That wasn't something that we were like, we're only going to place females. I think it just naturally women kind of flock, and that's how that piece progressed. And then in terms of our branding as well, like we wanted to be bright, fun, different, not just kind of like your typical recruitment company. And like I said before, really mirroring the brands and the tech businesses that we recruit for. I think that was always going to be a point of difference, to be able to be quite vibrant in can be quite like a dull market, I guess. And yeah, I think that's kind of, I mean, we've naturally trailed down the diversity piece, haven't we? And kind of that's been a massive point of difference. But
that does make sense. I know I do appreciate being honest around that. Like, it just sort of organically happened.
Yeah, we never
like,
intentionally went into
strategy.
it.
But that makes sense. Like, why? Like, you're going to use what you have at your disposal. Like, why would you not leverage that?
We
Why
never
would you
set
not?
out and we're like, we're going to do groundbreaking stuff and this is going to change the world. Like ultimately recruitment is recruitment. It's placing people at businesses. But we just wanted to do it with our authentic flair, make people feel comfortable, make people like they can feel, you know, be themselves in businesses, because ultimately someone could thrive at one business, but someone could fail at the same business just due to their values, their
100%.
personality type. Like, it's not just about the skill set, it's about their values and aspirations as well. And I think that's one thing that we really focus on.
For sure. Emma, let me comment you on this. Like, you worked at a reputable brand, big brand for a decade. I can't remember when we last sat down, like what your experience or journey was with like personal branding or how you was like building your own brand within that business. But have you been, because this is what I want to highlight to people, like, if you're not leveraging what you was talking about there, your brand being different, and you're an entrepreneur, you're a small business, like that's one of the best things that you can leverage. And what I think people underestimate is like how much that can help you and like how much an impact that can have. So my question for you, Emma, is like, have you been surprised how actually having this sort of brand-led approach, taking that seriously, really thinking about it, how much that has actually directly impacted you winning briefs and working with companies? How has that impacted things?
I mean, 100%. Like, my one piece of advice to any recruiter, regardless of what company you're at, is work on your personal brand, because that is what will follow you. When you leave your agency, you're still you. And funnily enough, our first placement was from a guy who I've known for years, never worked with him in a recruitment way. He's based in the US, and he just completely randomly messaged me on LinkedIn saying, hey, I remember I saw a video 6 months ago that you did about hiring females. I really need to hire a female. Can we talk? And we got that. I got that message on like in the middle of Jan or something when I'd handed my notice in, and I was like, what the hell? So that was from something I'd done so far, like before I was even thinking of leaving, and he had remembered me. And I think that's what's so important is, yes, you work for your company, but you're still you. And you know, so many of we're really fortunate that we've had a lot of inbound stuff, and it has been completely off the back of not just the brand of Esto, but the brand of us as individuals. And I think that's really, really important to, I think people feel like they know you more, like they kind of feel like they know you as a person. So, you know, again, it's that kind of human element. You don't have to cold call someone and be like, I'm Emma, blah, 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 blah. It's already there. So yeah, our first placement was from a video that I did ages ago. And I think, you know, majority of stuff that we've had, like we do a lot of new business, like taking candidates to market, but they, you know, the response is so much warmer because if you go on our LinkedIn, there's so much content there. So yeah, I think it's just so important to build on that personal brand. I think it's probably the number one thing that you could do.
Yeah, I think it's, especially when you then go on this entrepreneurial path, like it's one of your biggest assets, 100%. Especially when you're a small business. Like I don't know how both of you feel about this, but okay, it might really resonate with your brand and your company, but if I was describing working with your business, I'm probably going to say like, yeah, I love working with Louise, she's great. Or like they're probably going to end up talking about you as people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
So like especially when you're small, that's all you got. Like that's one of your biggest selling points. And if you can get that across and communicate that to more people, it's going to be really impactful. Something that I've observed, Louise, I don't know how it was for you on the personal branding front, but I'm interested to hear what you think about this. I've consistently found, not all the time, but most of the time, if I was to look at your LinkedIn pre-launching your business, I'm probably going to see less content than I do now.
100% when you was,
so I'm just like, I see that a lot. So like, I'm just interested to hear like, what was, I don't know, like what was holding you back maybe in an employed environment to really leaning into it? Because I do see that quite a lot, particularly
100%.
with first-time founders. It's like, I just see them absolutely going on a content game. Not everyone, but like, it's just like a very stark comparison.
Yeah, of course. I think it comes down to ultimately something that you're passionate about. Because if someone's telling you to keep doing something, I don't know about you, but it makes me kind of go the opposite. Like if your manager's going, you need to post, you need to do 3 times a week, blah, 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 blah. I go into retract mode. Whereas it's when it's something that you've built and you spent a lot of time building the brand, building the story behind it, why would you not want to share that? It just makes it for me a lot easier, and it doesn't feel like routine or something that I should be doing. Obviously, you want to grow your business. You want people to know who you are. So it's easier to get behind when it's something that you've built. That's kind of my take on it. That's why I find. But and it's also like the adverse effect, isn't it? Someone saying you need to do this, and you're like, no.
I definitely. Yeah, I've just always noticed that, but it does make sense.
It's just gonna have. It's ultimately got your best interests, isn't it, in mind?
Maybe it's as well because people feel like they have more freedom. Like if it's your own company, you can't really go wrong.
No one's criticising.
No one's going to tell you off if you've said something wrong. Whereas maybe some people who work in larger companies might feel, can I say that, or what are people going to think of me? Whereas, I guess you kind of lose that fear, don't you?
It's come back to that, like being yourself piece
be
again,
you.
isn't it?
Yeah, and also like trying to fit into someone else's brand. If it's not something that you're passionate about, then how do you get behind it? And sometimes it's hard to portray that on LinkedIn. Just feels a bit robotic sometimes, I think, from people, and probably past from myself as well.
For sure. So, Louise, I'm gonna come back to you on this, because I definitely resonate with this. And again, this has been another observation. Let's just talk about some of the like challenges or some of the things that both of you have worked through, which is what I've often found is there's this sort of period of like excitement.
Yeah.
When you first launch a business, right? We're talking about this first year. There's this, it might be the first 2 months, maybe the first 3 months, but there's a period where you launch your business, you let everyone know about it on LinkedIn, you're getting just this constant dopamine hit because they're like, oh my God, Louise, well done. Like, congrats. You're getting all these messages from people. You're like, oh, wow, yeah, like people care. And then slowly but surely, less and less people care, in the sense of like, you're not getting those messages every day going, hey, Louise, congrats, like, well done. Yeah. It's like,
becomes
just slowly but surely, you're like, right, okay, yeah, this is on me. Like, like I've got to make shit happen.
Yeah.
And I got written down here, like, initial excitement followed by self-doubt and panic. And I think a lot of people will resonate with that. So let's just talk about that, because I do think, like you can really get brought in that early period, and it's like really, maybe crunch time, or there's this period where it's like, actually, no, it's just down to me now. Like, this is the reality.
100%.
Yeah, talk to us about your experience with that.
I think, you're right, because it's all exciting. You know, you're sat in your bedroom, we're discussing branding, we're on Zoom, we're like, this is really cool, we're building a website, we're doing all this fun stuff. And then, like you say, the dust settles and reality kicks in, and you're naturally going to have that self-doubt. I think that's where it's been amazing to be able to build a business with someone like Emma, because we really do pick each other up when that's the case. Like we always joke and say we're in like a different cycle of like panic mode. Like I'll be in panic mode and she'll be like, what are you panicking about? And then vice versa. So I think like that highlights the importance of needing a really good solid partner, and someone that's not just, someone that's not just in a business sense that can pick you up, someone that can personally, you can level with and also have a good time with. But I think, like there definitely does a massive, overwhelming wave of self-doubt does hit you, because you're like, shit, I actually need to make money and pay my bills. Because ultimately, when you're at a company, you've always got the security of your base salary, whereas we have to pay our own base salary now. And, sometimes that is scary. Like, it's like, feels very adult and very grown up. Like, we've got to do this, otherwise shit's going to hit the fan. But I think like going back to the basics and realizing, like I say, like you can do your job. Yeah. And ultimately, I think a lot of self-doubt comes from perhaps like we had a couple of times at the start where we had a couple of things go wrong. In terms of like, not go wrong, like we did everything that we could control.
Just
and
normal recruitment setback.
Yeah, like you can only control the controllables, but getting bogged down in stuff where, things just don't go your way, which happens all the time in recruitment. Like you've got to be resilient. But I think that's when you can kind of be like, can I do this? Like, if deals are not happening and you really trying to, need to pick yourself back up. But yeah, Emma's been a massive help with that.
Nice, you helped each other, I
think, definitely.
I think it's just worth maybe noting, because I speak to someone else about this recently, but one, like in those early periods, maybe try and, if you're listening to this, like try and remember to be grounded. Like it's great that people are being your biggest cheerleaders and stuff, but remember that in order for this to be successful and achieve the things that you want to, it's going to come down to doing the things that matter every day. And it's normally the boring stuff, doing it really well every day.
100%.
But then I was just going to ask you, because this is what I speak to another business owner about recently, have you found that self-doubt ever goes away over the last 12 months? Because I definitely don't feel like it does.
No, it hasn't gone away over 12 years.
Yeah, exactly. You're always going to feel like you could be doing more and you could be doing better. And, but ultimately things aren't going to go your way the whole time. And it's just about building a bit of a resilience and how you cope with that. And I think like, the more that we stay positive about the things and kind of don't get bogged down in the stuff that's going wrong, the easier it is to then next time kind of build a bit of resilience to come past that when something happens again similar.
Yeah, I think you do have to, we're getting better at doing it. You have
Definitely.
to detach emotionally from the outcome of the deal.
100%.
So for us, as long as you know you've done everything you can and you've done like all under your power to make sure that, you know, it's all right. If it goes in or doesn't go in, you shouldn't really either over celebrate or kick yourself. All you can do is the best that you can do. And that's why when we've done deals, we're obviously happy, but we're not like, yeah, come on. And then when we've lost deals, we're not like, we're the worst recruiters in the world. We're like, we've done the same thing because, you know, ultimately you can only control so much. And I think it is just trying to take the emotion out of every single placement you do.
Yeah.
And just do the fundamentals, send the CVs, prep them, you know, go over everything as much as you can, understand who else they're talking to, make sure that you've got complete control over it. And then I guess you don't have as many highs and lows.
Yeah.
Which is what we try and do, I think, now.
And also I feel like you only kick yourself if you know that you could have done more.
Yeah.
So that's when you probably think, you know, oh my God, I'm never going to do a deal ever again, because you know ultimately that you've probably let something slip throughout the way. So as long as you're doing everything, going back to basics, like Em said, you can only control the controllables.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I do think I'm like 4 or 5 years in now on this sort of entrepreneurial journey myself, and it's like just a consistent learning journey. Like that's why I also
100%.
really enjoy it, because I just love my own personal development. It's just a consistent
100%.
learning, which I really enjoy. Some days I hate it, but it's also like I'm just learning. Like this is what I'm doing. I don't have all the answers, and you just got to keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
Emma, share with us. I've got written here. This sort of goes into it. Let's hear some stories on some challenges. Right, I've got here. Feel free to share whatever. I know you shared one before we started this, but I got Emma. Biggest challenge was dealing with respect from clients.
Yeah. So
Give us some instances, some stories.
So we had a client who, I won't say who.
No, of course not. You don't need to do that.
You know who you are.
No, we hate you. No. We had this one client. And so we did the briefing, went away. They were looking for a pre-sales engineer. So blah, 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 did a market map, went back and spoke to them. Their budget was about 80K. We said, look, for the person that you want, you're going to need to be paying 110, 120. They wanted someone senior. They wanted someone from a very specific tech background. So, and the way that they looked at us was like we were speaking a different language. And, you know, they were like, well, you know, we've spoken to this agency and they've said it's fine. And we've spoken to this agency and they've said it's fine. And, you know, we said, okay, completely appreciate that. But we know this market inside out and that you're not going to get what you're looking for. So anyway, went away, did the search, and then they just...
You still did the search?
Yeah, we
did the search at the level they wanted and said, this is what you can get for the money you want, or this is what you can get for the money that we think you should pay.
Right.
So we actually did 2 searches.
Either way, we were really happy with that.
Either way, we worked really hard that week. Yeah, and do you know what? It was quite funny actually when we look back on it, because didn't we both like high five each other? We were like, we've smashed this out of the park. They're going to be so happy.
We were really proud of the shortlist that we put together, but ultimately, and then the complete opposite happened.
Okay, what happened
They
then?
went on the call and the man actually said to us, he said, do you want some feedback? We said, yeah. He said, this is the worst list I've ever seen.
I genuinely thought the words would come out like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And he went, this is not good.
Yeah, we've...
Really?
Yeah,
The worst shortlist I've ever seen?
No, he didn't say.
Okay,
he said
fair.
this is terrible. And we were just completely shocked.
Did you say why?
He just said the candidates are too expensive. The ones that are good and the ones that are rubbish are too...
not good enough,
The ones
basically.
that are cheap aren't good enough, yeah. So we were like, well, what can we do? Anyway, then they ghosted us, which was lovely.
Post what? When you
we'd
presented
sent-
the shortlist?
Yeah. They were like, we'll come back to you in a few
We were trying to push for them to
days.
speak to them anyway, regardless. Like,
yeah.
you know.
So the candidates that we got that were more senior, that were great, then started getting messages from another recruitment company, a much larger, more established recruitment company, offering the job to them at their salary. So they were like, hi, we're working with X, looking for a pre-sales engineer, 120K base.
And they told you this?
Yeah, and all our candidates started calling us, being like, Emma, you know, I'm getting a message from this other agency. They're offering the job now. It's at a high salary. And we were like, what? So anyway, we were like, this is ridiculous. Went back to the company and they basically said, oh, yeah, we did. Well, you know, we didn't take your advice first of all, but then we went to this other agency. They told us it is more senior. So, yeah, we're going to work with them at the more senior rate. And we're like, what? So
on the salary that
but then
we'd
they had
originally
to put our
suggested.
candidates through the process through us anyway, because we'd obviously sent them first. So it was just one of those things where I thought, I wonder if we were older, more established, larger, giving that feedback to those founders, would they have maybe listened to it and taken it more seriously rather than us a few months in, you know, females as well. And, you know, maybe they didn't necessarily take that information on board because they obviously did take it on board from someone else. So I think we did feel like maybe they didn't trust us or
respect
our
opinion.
Yeah. But then, you know.
Have you had more, like, because I think that was the follow-up bullet point on this, like, and I know smaller recruitment agencies, if it's just you or you and one other, like, that can be, you can tell me, like, is it a limiting belief that it's more challenging for us because the perception of us is we're a small agency? Is that a limiting belief, or is that some instances where that does play out?
I think that's a limiting belief because, to be honest, I think 9 times out of 10, a lot of the clients don't even really do they don't really do much research into the company. Honestly, a lot of the time when I've gone on calls, they're like, "Oh, how's it going at Salt?" I'm like, "I've started a new company a year ago. Thanks for having a look."
Yeah,
so
literally.
I think, you know, it's how you come across. I think it's about having the belief in yourself. You know, we've had amazing pitches. We've got new clients that we've never worked before, and with some really like senior and impressive CEOs, and they've loved us from the word go. So maybe it's just that person didn't like us for whatever reason. But yeah, I do think it is a limiting belief because also, if you think about it, you could have a really large agency, 20 people, but a lot of those, you know, people that are actually filling your roles are going to have like 2-3 years experience, and versus with us, you know, you actually have more combined experience because Louise and I often work on roles together. So we'll get one job and we'll both do it at the same time to make sure we're completely covering the market. So if you think of it that way, you're actually getting more experience on your jobs than if you were to go to maybe a larger agency.
Just to put the cherry on the top of the cake on this thought, I really love that you said, it is actually probably more a limiting belief than the actual reality of it, which is great for people to hear. Not bothered who they are, but have you got good sort of, I guess, evidence on that in terms of where, you know, you came up against an agency that is more established, that on paper would be like, obviously you go the well-established one, but you've won that search.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm not bothered who, but like you've experienced that as well. The other side, right? You've actually won over competitors.
Because I think the thing is as well, we care so much about the job that we do. You know, it's not just about because we need to pay our bills. It's because I genuinely don't want anyone in the market to say a bad word about Esto. So if we get a role, I'm going to be working that role till 1 a.m. until I find you the perfect person. Versus, I think if you're working with a larger agency, yes, you're going to have people that care, but does that person really care if then they've got a call at 7, they're like, you know, let's go to the pub? They're going to put the laptop down. They're not going to. Whereas for me, I will stay until that search is done. And I think you do get a different kind of service when you work directly with a small agency, and especially when you're working with like a founder-led agency where the founders are very much involved, because that is, you know, it's our soul, it's our heart, it's everything. So, you know, we will do anything until that role's finished. And I think that's where we've beat people, is because they probably thought, this is a bit hard, I'm going to give up, whereas we wouldn't.
I think also on the flip side to that, though, it's really important, which I think we have learnt the hard way, is being honest on where we can commit and really kind of sticking to our values and knowing that we're going to be able to do a good job on a search. Because I think there was a couple of instances at the beginning where we put our heart and soul into it, and ultimately, really now we probably would have turned down that business. We wouldn't have worked it because we were getting bad feedback from the market from people that had previously worked there. And their kind of values and morals didn't align with what we were trying to push. And we spent a lot of time at the early days kind of working on stuff that we wouldn't have now.
We just
so
really wanted
to say no,
deal,
isn't it?
We really...
Let's talk about that, because I think that is also one of the challenges, probably continuously, that I hear when I speak to like either solopreneurs or it's them and another founder, like both of you, where it hits different to say no to
100%.
a job where you're like, that money could end up in our bank account if we work this. I reckon so. Tell us a bit more about that. Like, how have you've obviously had to learn it by doing some of those searches and going, you know what, actually probably shouldn't have worked that, or probably shouldn't have committed time. I think you've got to learn. I think it is one of those lessons where you've got to go through it to learn that lesson, probably. But then how do you now think about that in terms of like saying no to business? Because that is important.
Yeah, definitely. I think it comes down to, circumstances. I mean, for us as well, like, we much prefer to work on a contingent basis rather than commit to retainers as well. I think that's where we kind of learned
gave
in the early days.
back,
yeah,
which was really hard to do considering that was actually money in our bank
account. We didn't have any
account.
money at that point. We hadn't been paid, and they were offering us $5,000 up front immediately, and that was really hard to turn down.
Yeah, so we said yes, and then we started doing the search, and within about 2 weeks, we realised every candidate that we'd spoken to said, "I will never work at that company. Loads of people want to leave. It's not a nice place to work." And we were like, for God's sake, like, we really need this cash. And as it went on, we had to really had that hard conversation with ourselves and say, do we want to do a placement at a company that we know has this bad reputation? And even though it meant giving that money back, we just knew it wasn't the right thing to do. And
exactly.
I think as well, when you're working on stuff, a lot of the thing we say to each other is, could we spend our time just trying to find something else and trying to find something fresh? Because the amount of time you're working on something, and I think it's different to when I was working, in an agency, because sometimes you just need to fill your day with something to do. You're like, oh shit, what
and
am I
also
doing
you
today?
need the numbers for your stats. I think that's like, you say yes, don't you? Because you want another job on the system and you're working it. But actually now looking back, probably 50% of the stuff that I worked at, I wouldn't work now.
Really?
Yeah,
50%?
100%. Yeah, probably as high as that.
Yeah.
You just
Really?
think, I need to look busy. I need people to think that I'm doing shit, and I'm going to work this job till the cows come home, just so I can put CVs on the
I
system.
think the thing that's highlighted here, and I'm always thinking about this in my small business, is it's back to your point earlier, like Emma, like, yeah, you could take a call at 7 p.m, right? But like, your most valuable asset at this stage, and as it continues to stay, you two, whatever, is time.
100%.
Right, and that can
Time
go
is money.
both ways. It can go the wrong way in terms of like, shit, we've just spent 8 hours today on working a job, trying to promote a company that actually we probably know we shouldn't.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the competitive advantage we have is, I'm going to make that 8 p.m. call because it's my fucking business. I'm going to make it happen, right? So that's like the edges that you can have on employees, because not everyone's going to be willing to do that. But it is this other side where so many solopreneurs or small business recruitment founders, it is that time piece, because that is more painful. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that does hit different.
We had it
really
with that other company as well, that we like worked on a head of customer success search. We we mapped the market. We did so much.
Went to his event.
We honestly put so much time into it, and it was almost like we were a dog with a bone. We were like, we will fill this because we'd invested so much time. And we genuinely, we go into every month and we kind of think, what deals we do this month? Where are our deals going to come from? And that was one that we thought definitely going to do. There's no way we won't do that. And as it went on, we, you started speaking to candidates that had spoken to by like 3 other agencies. The talent person was involved. And it started to realise this deal probably isn't going to happen. And that was very early on. And I think that's when we were still very much emotionally tied to the outcomes of stuff.
Yeah.
And we were so annoyed. We were pissed off for about 2 weeks. And we were just like, this is so annoying. Whereas I don't think we do that now.
So let's talk about how do we get better at avoiding that then? So like, what jumps out at you? Is it we've got to be way more willing to have the courage on that job briefing, or at that stage to be like, you know what, actually it's multi-agency, this isn't something we're going to work. I don't know, where does it start?
I think it starts with from the job brief to start with, like when you're on that first call. With this situation, it was just the founder. He was giving us everything. We were going to be sole agency. The cracks started to appear as the weeks were going on, that
then
maybe
the internal recruiter was in the mix.
He hadn't been completely honest with us. But I think having that initial briefing and asking, such a simple question to actually ask people in that is, are you ready to make this hire now?
Yeah.
The amount of times that you ask someone that, you go through a whole job briefing. We had it last week, didn't we? And he's like,
I'm
I want
not in a
this, I
hurry.
want that. Oh, I'm not really in a hurry if the right person comes along. So, and I said, okay, so if I do the search tomorrow and if I send you people on Tuesday, are you going to interview them next week and can you hire them? Oh, and then as soon as somebody starts going like that, I'm like, okay, see you later, bye. Because whereas before I would have gone, okay, cool, I've just got a job brief and I'm going to send some CVs. Whereas now I'm like, realistically, I think it's just, you've got to be so honest with yourself.
100%.
Are you honestly going to hire this person, or have you just been told by someone in your company that you need to hire X? You can't really be asked. You're too busy. And actually you're just doing this as a tick box exercise yourself, versus someone that's got a pain and they need to hire that person, and if they don't, it's going to have a detrimental effect to their business. Because even some of our like best clients that we work with and have done for a long period of time, they'll give us 5 jobs a week and we will work one of those jobs, not all 5, because you can tell in the way that they're talking about those jobs, which ones are priority, which ones don't have a lot of candidates in play and which ones they actually need. And normally it's the ones where the hiring manager's banging on the door. So, and we know we're going to fill those ones versus us working things that, you know, they don't have that pressure almost. So I think it's just being really honest with yourself and stop almost wishing, going, oh, I've got 100k at final. Like, that doesn't mean anything, because half, you know, what happens if none of those people actually, you know, want to hire them? So yeah, I think it's just from that first meeting, dig down, ask the questions that are going to make them feel a bit uncomfortable almost, and say, like, do you need this person? Can they start soon? You know, and see how they react, because people, you will know when someone needs to hire. They'll be like, I need this person yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can tell. So
and what about, how have you felt about within that? How do you feel about if they're like, yeah, we've already given this to 2 other agencies, you're like, straight no?
Just probably no. Honestly, I think we would just rather walk away from something. Unless I had someone off the top of my head and I was like, this person is amazing, interview them, I wouldn't bother doing a search. Okay. I think you're so much better trying to get ahead of the curve and trying to find something else than, you know, if it's going to take you 2 minutes and you can chuck some people over, do it. But, you know, if someone's already been, you know, out to agency and they're this and they're that, I'm like, it just sounds like it's going to be a nightmare, to be honest.
Not worth it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then it sounds like from your experiences, coupled with that is, again, being truthful with yourself. Is this a reputable brand? Do they have a good reputation in the market?
Yeah.
Because it sounds like that as well.
Yeah, because we haven't had we've had one person leave, but that was from like personal reasons, wasn't it? But apart from that, we haven't had one drop out. And I think that's really important to us as well, because it stings so much more as well when if someone had joined a company and then had left, I would feel so much more, you're so much closer to it all. So I wouldn't want somebody to leave. And I think if you're going to start working at a company and you already know, you know, people, you know, recruitment has a really bad name and lots of people think we're like the devil. Actually, we're not. If you have a good recruiter and you're honest and you just want the best for your candidates, you're actually doing a really positive thing to the world. So I think for us, it's working with brands that we believe, that we think are great, that we want people to thrive in, because ultimately that's going to create more business. And yeah, versus going, we can make 10 grand if we place someone in there. Yeah, but they might leave after 6 months and then tell everyone how much they hate you. Like, what's the point of that?
Yeah. Yeah, some good bits in there. I think, like, again, like, not asking the questions that you don't want to hear the answer to, being really honest with yourself on those job briefing calls. Don't just hear what you want to hear. Make sure that, yes, companies and brands that you've either heard good things about, or you can have people tell you in your network, like, they're a good brand versus not. And then, really consider, like, do you want to be working multi-agencies? Like, you've got to judge that. So some good things in there. What have you, Louise, I'll come to you on this, and both of you can share this. Like, what I did find interesting about both of your approaches is, normally I'd speak to recruiters and they're like, yep, I do account executives in the UK, or I could do go-to-market in the UK, or I do go-to-market in the US or whatever. You've been like really holistic with your, like, was you doing that in Seoul? Was that like fairly normal? Or like, because not fair, because like, tell us a bit about this, because I think that's quite interesting. Like, you've been quite, so would you say your niche is go-to-market? Would you say that?
Our niche is go-to-market within tech companies. And I think we're really, it's more about, we know the companies we work for. So it's going to be
company-led. So
seed funded up to unicorn tech businesses, and then anything in the go-to-market function. So marketing, it's really, really funny. We've done so many marketing placements. We weren't allowed to do marketing at our last company.
We used to have to give our roles away. So if I got an account exec on in the US, we'd have to obviously give it to the US team. If I got a marketing role on, a creative role, a product role, I was only ever working at my last business in pre and post sales, which we were quite creative with kind of going outside of that. But it's been really nice to be able to kind of like follow, not just like a box and a trend. And I think actually now, like, really we're working a lot outside of that just pure sales place. Like,
sales is probably our least most
this is really interesting. Like, one of my conversations recently, he's ended up taking his career to the US, works for like a big brand. It's a bit of a soundbite, and we'll go into like why with him, but it was like, he almost feels like he thinks niche gives you a disadvantage.
100%.
His perspective.
It does.
And it's part of like what we're talking about here, because as you can
People
imagine,
doubt themselves as
especially
well.
on when you're an employee, typically, like, it's been discussed in this podcast all the time, like having a niche is important. There's loads of positives to that in terms of understanding your market really well. Every search that you do is going to help your future searches, all those bits. But actually what you're saying is you have got a focus, but it's very company led.
Yeah.
But then if that company is going, hey Louise, yeah, you know what, we've got no need right now in our sales team, they're absolutely flying. But something that we definitely need to improve and we wish we had yesterday was a really world-class marketing person.
Yeah.
Maybe beforehand you'd be like, yeah, you know what, actually, I can't do that. Let me pass you over to Emma that does marketing. That's what you had to do before. But have you not run into challenges then? Because normally, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think, do you know what? I think actually sometimes, like you say, it's a detriment if you have to pass that over, because then someone has to get to know the company again, get to know what they like. Like, it does take time to get to know who exactly, like, we've got a big client at the moment where we speak to someone and we're like, they're going to get the job. They're very, you know this client.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think actually being able to work across all different roles, you know what type of person and culture fit they want and what their values need to be, and you know what their aspirations need to be, and kind of like the mold that business hires. So actually I think it's a lot easier, because then it's just finding a different job title or, you know, finding someone
so have you found
of
that,
a similar characteristics.
So you did pre and post?
Pre and post sales, yeah. So like,
so have you found it hard? Have you found it hard, or like more than manageable, or like, do you know what I mean? How have you found like, oh wow, this week I'm doing a marketing search. Last week I was doing a pre-engineer sales. Like,
I think beforehand, so before Soul, I was at a company called Wenham Carter, and I was doing everything sales. Okay. And like I say, there was quite blurred lines of like what we were focused on. Like we were kind of going outside of that niche a little bit. But I think it's just as long as you know your businesses and you know your clients and you know the market, really you can do any role. I don't think there's too much like, I don't think there's too many limitations on that. Like it's the same thing. It's just a different job.
I think as well, it's about how you're adding value to your client. So say I'm a recruiter and I only do marketing roles, right? That's all I do. Marketing. But I do it against maybe a fintech company, a retail brand, whatever, but I know marketing. Yes, that will add value to the client in some way. But I think the manager will already know what that job is because they're managing the team, right?
Yeah.
So they can give you the details on, this is the kind of person I want. This is what they're going to be doing on a day-to-day. Cool. But if they've maybe come from a different sector, or if they're, you know, wanting to know about, you know, what their competitors are doing. Louise and I know the tech companies, the market inside out. So we're always like, oh yeah, this company, yep, we know that person, we know what they do, we know that. Have you seen what these guys are doing? Have you heard of this company? So we can say, we know the talent, like, do you know what I mean? We can give them guidance and advice on actually what the other businesses in their landscape look like. And I think the job title was probably the easiest thing to pick to get. Like, I generally have never worked a marketing role until Esther, and
exactly.
Right. It's interesting, right? Because like, I think a big reason why, and I am a big advocate of having a niche, having a focus, but what you're saying here is your niche, you're just being way more company led versus job title led.
100%,
you know what I mean?
It needs to be market led.
Yeah, it needs to be market led. But like what I was going to say, so like where, like I totally get that. So that's actually like just having more of a niche to focus. But why I think people do end up being like, I'm Emma, I just work with those types of companies and I do marketing, is because that's their point of difference. That is why people do that, especially when you're like smaller. Like that's an edge for people, which I do get.
There's definitely some roles like tech, engineering and stuff.
Product
it's
and
just
things
going
like
over
that.
our heads, and I just can't even get my head around it. So there are definitely things, but I think if you look at a go-to-market function, there's so much movement anyway. And also, I think people are changing how they work in their own careers now. 5-10 years ago, if somebody starts working in marketing, they're probably going to stay in marketing. I think humans in general now are being way more fluid in terms of what they're doing. And someone might start in customer success and then decide they want to move into sales or partnership. So actually, a lot of the placements that we've done are someone that I've gone, this person's amazing. They're open to alliances. They're open to account management. They're open to sales. Do you want to have a chat with them and see where they fit in best? Because I think, you know, people are, we don't just have the same career trajectory that we did 10 years ago where I'm working in consulting and that's all I'm going to do for my whole life. Like people do that and then they want to work in a startup, then they want to do this, they want to do operations. So I think us being flexible, candidates are way more flexible. It's not as black and white. It's not that same sort of Rolodex of, I'm going to call, Bob from 10 years ago that was doing marketing. Oh, they're going to be perfect. Like, Bob's probably not even doing that anymore.
Yeah,
so
I think it comes down to, again, doesn't it, like matching the people and not the skill set.
Yeah.
Like if you know the businesses, then you can match the person pretty easy.
Yeah, it's really interesting taking something for people that might not work in every market.
No.
But
No,
I know
of
a
course.
bit. Like my wife works for G2, so like I'm quite
Oh,
familiar with
okay.
this go to
yeah,
market.
I love G2.
So like, and I
Bit
learned a lot from
marketing.
I learned a lot from like the tech sales
Yeah.
world. So I do get, I really resonate. That might not work. Anyone listening might not work in your market, but I do think when you're a smaller business or it's just you, it's something to think about.
Definitely.
But I understand why people lead with it, because I do feel like with the amount of people I've sat down with, like that's what they would say is one of their main unique selling points, is that I only deal with these types of people, so I am the specialist. I know these people inside out. But actually, it's something to the opposite is, well, what about being company led and just being really focused on the types of companies you help, and with their help, you can understand the types of people that are going to thrive there. But then along the way, you might need some help on the skill set and expertise, but you can probably figure that out. It's interesting.
Do you know what as well? I think we are going to start seeing so many job titles that don't even exist right now. Like an example is we've just built a RevOps and sales enablement function for one of our clients. That's only quite a new piece of the sort of go-to-market landscape. And now we're seeing so many companies hiring RevOps and sales enablement. Now, are they going to be able to go to a RevOps and sales enablement specialist? There probably is one out there. Or did they just come to us and say, look, guys, we want to build this team. Okay, cool. Let's go away. Let's do the research. We completely, fully kind of like submerged ourselves into it. We've built the whole team. We didn't have any experience in RevOps or sales enablement.
I think we actually
we've done 5 or 6
what is
placements.
RevOps.
Yeah,
I love
check,
But you understand the company, you understand their values, you understand
who they
what
play.
But
great.
they didn't even know what it was, because they were like, we're building, and it's the, next year they might say we want this AI whatever job that doesn't exist today. Like, I think you need to be more fluid, because we're working on things that weren't here this time last year. So if you're only sticking in one sort of thing, then you're probably going to miss out on opportunity, because there's probably people out there that don't specialize in a lot of things that people need help with.
Yes, pros and cons for sure. But I think, again, I haven't spoke to a lot of people. It can just be hard saying no, should I stay focused, whatever.
Yeah.
So there's some good things there for people to take. Let's go into something that people always think about when they start this entrepreneurial journey is tech stack. Because
I don't think we did.
That was last on the list, if I'm honest.
Yes, but it's good to hear that. It's good to hear that though, because I think after our call I did that post. I know Emma, you commented on it, because
we got a lot of backlash.
maybe I didn't do it justice, but like tell us a bit about this, because I've got here tools. You correct me, right? But tools, I've got LinkedIn Premium, but I think I've got that bit wrong.
To be honest, I think I didn't even know what it was.
Yeah, okay, so you got LinkedIn Recruiter Lite.
Yeah.
Bullhorn database,
£130 a month.
Okay, so we've got 130 quid a month. But yeah, we got LinkedIn Recruiter Lite, Bullhorn database, phone, ChatGPT. That's literally what I've got written here.
Yeah, that's
like,
it.
That's your tech stack.
And just for the thing, Bullhorn, I don't really know. I still don't know my login details.
Okay, but
this is something that we're trying to work on.
So you've kept your monthly. We can be honest here in terms of like to run the business. I've got here monthly outgoings around 500. Is that truthful? Or is it a bit more? Is it a couple
I would say
more?
so.
Yeah, I'd say that's even maybe pushing it a little bit, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because people can get caught up on this stuff.
I think we were talking about this morning as well, weren't we? About tech in general, and saying how there's so many different techs out there. And I remember when I used to interview people when I was at Salt, and they'd be like, have you got this? And it's like, you don't need any of that to do your job. You're just trying to fluff around from like the point of it. Yes, it might save you maybe 30 seconds or whatever, but the job is the job.
Building relationships and building credibility.
Right. We've been LinkedIn call us all the time. Like, when are you gonna do?
We were tempted, weren't we? At first, we were thinking maybe we need premium, because that's kind of what you've been molded to do. And like sometimes, don't get me wrong, when I'm running on one email, I think maybe I could do with 20 more. But ultimately, you've all got LinkedIn, and it's all about the prior relationship. We're often connected with the people anyway on LinkedIn. It's a lot within
it's
our
personal
network.
Branding again, isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I was prepared for a podcast yesterday with someone, and most of her business comes from LinkedIn, and she hasn't got a LinkedIn Recruiter license, just LinkedIn Premium. Like, she's big on the personal branding. She's growing her network.
I think LinkedIn Recruiter, like, I think they trap you into, so, you know, I listened to the episode with John Gorn. He was saying about how they trap them into those long contracts at Finley James. Like, we don't need that overhead. One of my friends has started his own and he said he pays like 30 grand a year. And I was like, what?
How are you doing
He's like,
that?
well, it's only one placement. It's like, but it's still 30 grand. It's like, what are you possibly getting for
It's
that
crazy
30
how
grand?
expensive it is. I think it's because people believe that they need it in order to be successful in recruitment.
But also, we're definitely quality, not quantity. Okay, if you've got a search, you can either send 500 emails on LinkedIn, or you can find the 10 people that can do the job. You go on LinkedIn, you add them, you email them, you call them. You spend that bit longer to get hold of those 10 people than to just slapdash send 500 emails. Like, spend time doing the right thing, and you know, it's a little bit more effort, but you're saving yourself a lot of money.
Yeah, no, it's good to hear, right? So do you think it's just helped you be less distracted, basically, and like just prove
More
to both of you
focused.
like we don't
I
need
never
that
used
much?
my LinkedIn when I was at school. I used to get in trouble because I always used to have my emails left over. Some people used all their emails, some people didn't really even use it. So I honestly just go on the main LinkedIn. I do a little Boolean search in the top, and I often just use that. Like,
And you're not even using your CRM though. What are we like, spreadsheet vibes?
we love the
automated?
spreadsheet.
Yeah.
We are using this. We're getting to grips with the CRM.
Both of us are not very good at admin. That was
Yeah.
always the thing that we were getting bollocked for
Yeah.
at our old companies is nothing's on the system. You've done nothing
really
this
common.
month.
I know.
Blah, 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 blah. And it was just something that we both were like, okay, if we're going to build a business, we actually do need to try and wrap our heads around having a database, like putting everyone in one place, tracking things properly. So I think, Google Sheets is probably our best friend.
Yes.
But we are trying to move everything across to
You
Bullhorn.
definitely should. I guess this is your reminder, right? Like, again, it's easy to give the advice, but like if you think about all the searches you're doing with people, especially if you've got this mindset of like, we don't need to be that reliant on LinkedIn, the more better your database is, and you take that seriously from day one.
Do you work for Bullhorn?
No, just in general.
He's undercover.
You trying to upset us?
No, not at all. Nah,
You
just in
want us to buy
general.
another license?
Just in general. If you think about it, like
we
in another
don't.
year's time, think how good your database could be.
I know.
We,
all right,
like-
Dad, calm down.
No, honestly, it's something that we well, it's actually more something that I'm telling Emma on a daily basis, but I don't practice what I preach. But I'm like, we need to be doing this. Like, I'm like a constant little noise, like at the background. Oh.
What about on the? I know, Louise, this is your more wheelhouse, like getting paid, chasing invoices, that stuff. Because again, that can be that's a big learning for people, right? You're used to doing a placement, putting it on the whiteboard and like,
Exactly.
sweet,
Yeah.
that's going in that commission paycheck, but
Yeah.
it's different.
We've got it at the moment, haven't
Yeah.
we? We're owed quite a lot
We're
of
owed
cash.
quite a lot of money at the moment.
Well, let's talk about it because this is so common. And when I last asked you that, Emma, you said to me like, "No, it's sweet, you get paid all
Yeah,
the time."
well,
But now you're
Now we're owed a lot. We're owed a
Yeah.
lot, and we haven't. We've got.
so let's talk about it. So how are we thinking about that? What's been harder? What have we learned?
Well, to be honest, we haven't typically had many problems until probably the last month, but it's been quite easy to just naturally fall into that progression. I think I like to be more, not that I'm data driven at all. I'm actually like the complete opposite, but I'm trying to fit the mold. One of us has to.
She's the CFO.
I'm the
Okay.
CFO.
You're CFO, okay.
I'm the
And
CMO.
I'm trying, so, we chase our own invoices. Again, we did actually say the other day, maybe we need to open another email because it's coming from our personal. We need an account so we can kind of separate that
When
through.
are you sending it on when a contract's signed, or when you? Do you know what I mean?
Start date.
Start date.
Interesting.
Yeah. So when the candidate starts, we'll send the invoice through Xero.
Yeah.
Because that could be something to think about. Just that I speak to a lot of recruiters, and again, who are struggling to always get paid on time. I know you're saying this is a bit more of a recent thing, but most people said my client hasn't batted an eyelid me sending the invoice on acceptance and signing contract.
Yeah, I think ours probably would.
Yeah,
I
think-
I don't know.
To be honest, I don't even know. I don't.
Like,
know
no,
why I'm
it's just
saying
something
that.
to think about, because you might not have like they've signed a contract, they're due to start. If you think they've got a 3-month notice period or whatever, you're not going to send your invoice until.
Yeah, I know.
Do you know what I mean?
We've got some people now that don't start till April, and even one person that starts in June.
It's just something to consider.
Yeah.
Like, if you never asked it, like, they're not going to know any different potentially. So it's like, we send the invoice on contract acceptance. Obviously, if they then don't start, what have you got to worry about? You said no one's not started. So it's just going to increase when you get paid. You've done the service.
Yeah, it
It's
might
something to
get
think about.
fate though. Do you not think?
Yeah,
I mean,
feel
I
like
just
it would
had a lot of
tempt fate.
recruiters say that's massively helped them get paid on time, get their invoices out early. A lot of people send their invoices on contract acceptance signed.
I've never even thought about it, to be honest.
I feel like it would tempt fate.
Yeah.
They'd all get hit by bus or
I
something.
think these
the day
might be
before they
limiting
start.
beliefs.
Yeah.
These might be limiting beliefs. Try it. Just if you think about it, because think of the time period
Yeah.
you got to wait, and cash flow. It's just something to consider. But
Yeah.
But normally, obviously, you're sending the invoices Xero.
Yeah, send it through Xero, which is pretty easy, and then we just track it all on there. And yeah, I think, like I say, we've been quite lucky, I think, in terms of not having any
We've
problems
never had
with
a late
payments.
payment until in the last 2 weeks.
But then we later found out that the company that we were waiting for the payment for, they've changed their software that they're using for their accounting. So that's where there's kind of been a little bit of a hiccup. But other than that, I think we've been pretty lucky. But we hear horror stories where people, you know, have not been paid at all, which, you know, touch wood, hopefully doesn't happen. But I'm sure that'll be the next learning curve where...
Yeah, all of the companies we recruit for as well are pretty established. We don't work with any like really very small sort of one-man band. Or...
But have you found it fairly natural then to lean into like chasing your invoices?
Yeah,
like,
I quite enjoy
it. She loves the power.
I do. I'm like, Emma? No, I quite enjoy just being like organised, knowing where we're at, looking at everything and being like, this is what's
she
due.
was like, Emma, we're overdue on these invoices. I was like, don't worry, it's coming.
I'm like,
she's
no.
like, well, it's not. And I'm like, it is. Don't worry, they would have sent it. Like...
I'm like, absolutely
not.
not.
What your payment term, average payment term, like 14 days? Or...
14 or 30.
days or 30, yeah.
Okay. Sweet, yeah. Because I know that's something that a lot of people...
We always send them at 14, but...
No, we send them on the day.
Yeah.
We chase them.
No,
on
I'm
14.
saying like the payment terms are 14 or... we always try and get away with 14.
Oh, yeah, we do 14. They always change it to 30.
Yeah, fair. The other thing I wanted us to talk about this, we were just thinking about the business, and I know we spoke about this, and it is common, is this sort of... To frame this sort of up, I spoke to someone yesterday. It was his business. And sometimes there can almost be like this guilt that he's really happy at just being him and like not having this big drive to grow a team or whatever.
Yeah.
So I know when we spoke, I'm not saying that you felt guilty about, oh, should we grow, should we not? But I know it's something that you were sort of battling with maybe in terms of like, we're doing well. Should we be spending money hiring people? Should we not? So talk to us about your relationship with this, because again, it might be ever evolving, but your first year, I'm sure you've done some reflecting, but it sounded like you sort of run into that a bit. But when we did speak, you felt really content owning that actually, no, we're really happy with it being us too. And this is our business. And actually we've got nothing to feel guilty about that we're not growing a business, or we feel like we should grow a business.
We were just listening to one of your episodes the other day, Elliot, and I think he said he did 1.6 million over 6 head, and we were trying to work out what his profit would have been on that, and we were like thinking, we've done 500k over 2 heads and our outgoings of £500 a month, like we've made a pretty good amount of profit versus even if we hired somebody, and we were trying to do the maths, weren't we? We were like, if we wanted to hire a good... Because I do not want to hire, I wouldn't want to hire a junior. I'd want to hire somebody that I could trust and that, you know, would be comfortable working remotely for a period of time, that, you know, probably someone that I already knew. And I'm thinking a good recruiter in this market today is like 60 to 70k base. So you hire them, you then want them to do what they need to do for 250. Even if they did 250, I think we worked out how much you'd make about 30 or 40 grand off them, right? We could just do one more deal between us, and then we've made the same amount of money, and we wouldn't have had to go through all that, probably have sleepless nights, probably have to have tough conversations, probably, you know, they might not do that, they might blank 3 months,
have you wrestled with it though? Have you thought like, should we be hiring, we've got this money, what do
for sure.
Do you know what I mean?
And I think like we were saying, when we're like, at the moment, we have a very, 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 like every day I wake up and I thank the universe for our life, because we have a great life. We have a really good work-life balance. We spend a lot of time, you know, we can put our health first. We can go to the gym. We can do this. We're not completely run down. And I just think hiring people is really stressful. And a lot of the people that we've spoken to are like, hold off for as long as you can and enjoy this time in your life, because once you've hired people, you won't get it back. I used to manage people when I was at school, and it was really fucking stressful. And half the time I was doing their job as well as my own job, because I didn't want them to get in trouble. And I'm like, I just don't think I could do it now. Like,
I think also as well, like our mindset around that definitely changed. Like before we started, and perhaps conversations that we had in the first 3 months, we were very keen on getting a hiring plan in place. You know, when's our first hire going to be? We'll assess at 6 months. Whereas I think that has definitely done a massive 360 to be like, we're happy just being just us at the moment. And I think it will come to a point where we get bored of just doing deals between us, and we want more than just like, you know, a bit of a lifestyle business that we're passionate about. And that, I guess, then it will come to a point where we think we want to build a team, we want to manage, we want to be present, we want to be in an office. Whereas I personally don't feel like both of us are in a place where we can give that, and we don't actually feel like we want to hand over the reins. I almost feel too like precious over Esther at the moment, that I wouldn't, you know, ultimately people don't care as much as you. And I think that's what we realise as well when we've heard a few horror stories, whereas it's like people are not going to be as passionate about Esther as we are. And I think, yeah, it will get to a point, and don't get me wrong, I'm excited for when that happens. But right now, I'm really just enjoying the ride, the lifestyle, and being able to just, you know, collaborate with you and be able to kind of build a brand that we're proud of now.
We've actually done some split deals with a couple of people that used to work at Salt. A guy called Ollie, shout out if you're listening. He's got
Jimmy,
Ollie and Jimmy, we love you. He's got his own agency, and when we've got too many jobs, we're like, do you guys have candidates for this? And then they invoice us once the candidates pass their probation, because, and then that was kind of like the best of both worlds, because if we've got too many jobs on, we can essentially borrow them to fill the jobs, and then when it quietens back down, like they're not working on anything at the moment for us, but you know, that might change. So I think that's quite a good approach that we've got.
No commitment in terms of not to pay salaries.
Yeah, so
I just think the most important thing I take from that, and it's also like note to self, is like the most important thing is like you both of you know what you want, because I think if you're not clear on that, and that can change obviously, but if you're
100%.
both really aligned on like, you know what, this had a great first year, this year I really like the idea of us both just really buckling down, you know, enjoying what we're doing, delivering a great service, and then we can reassess. If you're both on the same page on that, and that's clear, then what that means is you can make decisions, because where people struggle is like, should I be doing this? Should I hire someone? Should I not? And that's because they haven't got clarity on like the type of business they want. So I think that's why it's key. And I think when I do have conversations with the way that you're talking about it being both of you, is like just owning that, because I have it all the time. Sometimes people almost feel like this guy said to me yesterday, like, oh, I'm not like the people that you normally into.
Excuse me, sorry.
I'm
having a coughing fit.
No worries. I'm not like the normal people you interview. Like, I don't want to grow this big team, and sometimes people almost a bit sheepish to say that. But that's why I wanted you to share that, because there's nothing wrong with owning that. And if that's what you want, that's the most important thing, having clarity on it.
I think as well, like management and leadership and recruitment is almost like very much glorified. When I was at Salt, it was like, you know, go down that chain. They had lots of different routes, whether you could be a biller or management. But for me personally, I always wanted to go down that management. I don't know why. I just felt like, you know, those are the people that get the most respect. When you've done it for a long period of time, you realise it's actually probably the worst job in recruitment. Like managing people and just having to take on all their problems and everything. And actually, that is what's emotionally draining, way more than you just doing. Like, I feel such a sense of like relief since I've been doing Esto, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I just have to do placements now. Like, that's all I have to worry about. And I think sometimes people get in their head, I want to go down the management route, or I want to hire loads of people, and versus the reality, could you be happier just doing deals? I actually think if I'd stayed at Salt and instead of going down that management route, if I'd just done deals, maybe I would have been a lot less stressed and you know, a lot more happier.
Yeah.
But I felt like I wanted to, you know, manage people, but I don't know if that's always the best thing to do. And it's okay for that
journey to change as well, I think.
Oh,
It can evolve,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think on this, definitely, I think as well in today's world, AI outsourcing, like that's a legit option now.
I don't think we would ever do that.
Why?
Ever.
No.
What?
We had it the other day.
People, what in South Africa or Philippines, don't like the idea of that?
I personally think for us, our whole business is called is Esto BU, and we even so when we do think about hiring, one of the things that I'm like 100% set on is that I want to be working in an office with people, not every day, but at least like 2 to 3 days a week. I want people to be able to have their own natural style of recruitment. So I think a lot of companies get into, you know, you must send 15 CVs, you must do this, you must do that. For me, I want people in my company to work how they want to work. I want them to be authentic to themselves. I think sometimes when you outsource things, or you know, even use AI to write your emails, I know some people do that. It's like, well, that's not you. That's not authentic. So even though I know it's probably easier, it just goes against everything I stand for. So, you know.
And what we're trying to build as well, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I just think the reason why I brought it up is because one of the biggest challenges, you might disagree with me, but like again, it's the timepiece. So not everything that you do day to day, every week is as impactful as other things, right? So there could be more high leverage things that you could spend more time on, right? So if you were to do a time audit or your week, for me personally, I can very easily sometimes get at the end of the day and be like, I felt busy, but what the fuck have I done today?
Oh yeah.
So it's like, so for me, I've always been an advocate. I've had, she's UK based. We call her growth assistant. She plugs into the team, but I've had the virtual assistant for like 3-4 years now. And that's
what does she do? Is she a real person?
Yeah, she's a real person.
Where is she?
Her. She's based in Cambridgeshire.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, she came to our
She's
Christmas
not an AI
do.
bot.
No, but like the reason why I'm bringing that up
Thought
is
you had a little
because
robot in your
like
bedroom.
there will be things that both of you are doing that probably, if you were to take the time to create some sort of checklist or system document, someone else could do.
Yeah.
And then that means
We were
you can,
talking about that.
You can spend more time on going out meeting clients, and like there will be more high leverage tasks versus other things. That's all. I think it's something important to think about when it's just you and it's your time.
Yeah, we launched a second semi-business community thing in October last year, which is called Together. And essentially, it's a female-only community for go-to-market and HR and talent. And we want to run events. We want to do a mentorship program, all these things. We did our first event in December, and we're halfway through Q1. And shock horror, we haven't really started planning the event too. And we were saying like, oh, I'd just love to have like someone that would just, do that for me.
I think like that's what I said.
You could.
I could.
A couple of people
oh my gosh, I actually could.
If you were to break it down, there'd be things that person could do. So Carla, for example, we host quarterly dinners that we invite founders to because it's helpful that you probably did the first one, right? So now you could probably hopefully find it fairly easy to be like, this is what I want you to do when searching for a venue. This is what I want you to do for this part of the task. But like, she'll source venues, put it on a spreadsheet.
Can I steal yours?
She'll call it, no, but like you should be thinking about that.
Yeah,
like
we
your
were.
outgoings aren't huge. It's like, how can you get some of that time back? So the first thing is doing a time audit.
We literally did say we would probably, our first hire probably wouldn't actually be a recruiter. It would be somebody to run the Together community for
and
us
do the finances.
and do the finances and
Yeah,
stuff.
it doesn't have to be a full-time employee. It can be. I'm a huge advocate for that. I think in today's world, personally, you haven't been spending loads of money. Like she's on a retainer for me, so I pay her every month. I have another girl called Micah, who's our learning designer for our training platform.
Ooh.
We have a retainer. Like, I think in today's world, you can access amazing talent.
I think maybe we actually do need
cost.
to do that.
Yeah, I think a couple of other people have said to me as well that I've spoken to that have also done this. Like, honestly, you will not regret hiring someone to deal with all the shit that takes up your time, like unnecessarily, like the invoicing, the admin, booking things, like managing our diaries. I think, that is something that we have spoke about.
Yeah.
And maybe this is now brought it to light even more. Maybe we're going
Maybe
to
we
straight.
need to.
I think if you were to
anyone
end
wanna
up,
help us?
if you wanted to end up paying for like one of these like AI automation courses or whatever, right, where they're like you get time back, the first thing that you're going to do is do a time audit. That's just the most actionable step. So if Emma every day for one day you were to write down every 30 minutes what you did, and then you look at the end of the day and go, what actually was a good use of my time versus not. There's gonna be some stuff in there that you could probably get someone else to do, which is like low skill level, easy for someone to do, and then you get that time back. That's just the best way to think about it.
Yeah.
All right, let's round out on this end. You were sort of touching on it because I think it's really important, sometimes overlooked, which is particularly when the business is so reliant on both of you performing. Something that I think people miss is to perform in work, you need to be performing out of work.
100%.
I'm like really passionate about this. I know this is also part as to like why both of you feel really great about how the business is set up at the moment. So tell us a bit about this. You were talking about fitness outside of work, moving away from a drinking
100%.
culture, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think for me, if me and my relationship's really good, my relationship with my health's good, all of that, the chances of me performing in work just go up massively.
100%.
So tell us a bit about this, because I think this is also hopefully one of the benefits that people should be tapping into if they're a solopreneur or if it's a small business that they should be trying to be thinking about.
I think like the difference in our health and like mental well-being from now versus when we were at our last company is just so huge. And I don't think that's anything against our last company. It's not. I think it's sadly quite just a big trend in recruitment across the board. Thursday night drinks, Tuesday night drinks.
Friday's then a write-off because you're hungover.
Friday's a write-off because you're hungover. Like a lot of incentives revolve around drinking. And, I think you're just in that environment more. You've had a stressful day. The first thing you want to do is like go out with your friends and talk about it. And everyone's kind of gone through the same shit together. So you're all in the same boat. Whereas now, like, number one, we both work remotely, so I don't have, I do definitely miss that side of like being in the office and having all that kind of fun, but you're just focused on yourself more, and you own your time more. So, even just being sat down at my desk for 4 hours in the morning and 4 hours in the afternoon, or 3 hours, whatever it was, like, when I think about that now versus what I do now, I'll do a bit of work for maybe 45 minutes for an hour, and then I'll go for a walk. Like, and we both are the same. We're on the phone to each other pretty much all day, but we're outside walking. Some
of our best ideas have come when we're walking together,
walking,
doing the things that we like to do. And I think in recruitment, especially in any sales job, you need to feel good in order to perform well.
Yeah.
Like, if you're stressed, if you're tired, like, sleep's a massive one. Like, now, if we've had a rubbish night's sleep, I don't need to be rushing around at the crack of dawn to be on a meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning. I think that's the difference. Like, allowing yourself to feel good and listen to your body and look after yourself.
Yeah,
and
we always say to each other, like, if she's like, I had such a bad night's sleep last night, I'm like, go back to bed. Like, I'll call you at 10. Like, and I know that's a really fortunate position to be in, but I think it does just have so much, it helps your mental health so much when you can actually put your health first. And also, not necessarily run away from the problems. If you've had a shit week, I'm not like, right, I'm going to go and get pissed. I'm like, okay, that was really bad. I need to make sure that I'm going to the gym, feel good, so that I can show up best for myself next week and be level-headed, because this is really important that I get it right.
And also having the time to be able to exercise, like, going to the gym's like therapy. Like, you need to be able to exercise your body to also exercise your mind. Like, I think it is just all about feeling good.
Yeah, I just think it is sometimes overlooked by people. Like, I think I've been guilty of this. Like, it's so easy when it's your own business to put all your eggs in that basket. And it's like, because my business, but I'm building a business. The time that I'm spending on it is the right thing to do. And then slowly but surely, your relationships can be shit. You're showing up really badly 100%. There. You're not going to the gym. Because I just hear that all the time, and I've been guilty of that. But whenever I feel best, it is when I don't know how I feel about work-life balance. I don't know how helpful that is personally in terms of like this word balance. Like, for me, I'd rather
we don't really have, like, I see our work as like an extension of
same.
my life. So I work on a Sunday, I work on a Saturday.
Yeah, and I enjoy it. So,
but it's not because I'm like, right. It's because I'm like, oh shit, I've got.
Like last
but
night
I may
we were
not
on the
work
phone.
on a Friday. Like, I don't necessarily go, these are my working hours. When I'm not working, I'm not going to check my work emails are on my phone. I read them as if I read my normal emails.
Yeah.
There's no. I don't have a sort of a line, which maybe some people would say isn't healthy. But for me, I'd rather constantly be in the know than go on holiday for 2 weeks, switch off, come back, and there's been a shitstorm. I'd rather just constantly deal with things as they come, and not have that line. And, some of the stuff we do is in the US. And like, we were on a call last night at 8:30 on a video call.
Yeah,
that doesn't really bother
last
me
night, like,
because, because we probably didn't start work till 11 a.m. or something. It doesn't. We just go with the flow in terms of what is needed from us. But
I think, again, like, we are super lucky and fortunate to be able to do that, because we understand, like, businesses have to run a certain way. You have to have people clocked on at the same time.
Yeah,
but I think it's just,
that would be chaos.
It's just finding that balance of, like, what works for you and also like what works for the business. But yeah, it definitely is easy for the lines to be blurred in terms of like personal time and working time. But I think that hasn't really affected us negatively. If anything, I quite enjoy that.
Yeah.
Like, it just all kind of being blended into one rather than this is work and this is home.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
I just
may
think,
change. I don't know.
No, for sure. I think it's just about you being at peace with it and what works for you, really. But I think what we're talking about here is that as a business owner, you always hear that, like, have more freedom, start a business. Some people argue that you can very easily find yourself having less freedom because you're run a business, but you're doing a job that you don't really like because you've got to serve these customers and clients. But if you're currently really struggling at work, don't forget to take a look in the mirror and go, actually, like, where else am I performing in life?
100%.
Particularly when it's your business as well. Like, and when I first started, I was really bad at communicating with my now wife, and like I just expected to understand, and now I've got way better at that. Like, you do have a bit of a journey with it, but it can just be so overlooked by people. So don't sort of overlook that if you don't feel like you're getting the most out of your career or the most out of your business. For sure,
definitely. Like, just understanding yourself and putting your health and your wellness first is just going to have such a positive impact on everything else in your life.
Massively.
Love it. Well, look, what a first year. good little recap.
Happy birthday.
Plenty of
Happy birthday,
lessons in there, things for people to take away. I think it's fair to say that I think what is really true, which I really respect, I know we started with like how you came up with the company name, but I think what is really ringing true here is like you've both really owned like just being yourselves and running the business that you want. Basically not using this CRM, not like just, you know, like we don't need all these tools.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like you've really owned that, which I really respect. And I think that's the cool thing about entrepreneurship. It's your business. No one's saying, no, Louise, you can't do it that way. Like you've owned that and you're going to keep learning. There's going to be some bad things that happen along the way, but I think this is a really cool thing about taking this leap and what you've achieved.
Yeah.
I'm sure, because I'm the same, you're always thinking, oh, I could have done this better. We could have done 530 grand or whatever. But that's amazing what you've done in your first year, and I'm sure it's only going to continue. So I really appreciate you, both of you coming on, being honest, sharing everything, because I know it helped people. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.